A very good morning to you, students. Welcome to Unit 3 of Business Communication and one of the most important and interesting aspect, correspondence planning. Now, what exactly do you mean by the term correspondence? Correspondence means letter writing or act of letter writing at large or something that is related to the aspect of letter writing to actually communicate your emotions, your feelings in such a manner that whatever you are writing is being communicated to your particular receiver at large. To begin with, let us have the aspect of correspondence. Correspondence is written form of communication between two parties. In other words, it is a way to pass on the ideas in writing. Basically, it is a methodology by which you are going to pass on an idea that whatever is there in your mind, you will be able to communicate that particular point or particular feeling onto the other parties. Correspondence is commonly used for communication in business. In past, correspondence is most commonly exchanged through the written physical letters or telegraphs. See, basically, nowadays correspondence is being done or is being introduced at large by the business people a lot. And in past also, the physical letters and telegraphs aspect of your thing are being included in correspondence. In today's world, the definition of correspondence has expanded by inculcation of digital media, emails, text messages, documentation exchanges, special platforms, and digital agreements are the new way to deliver the correspondence. See, what exactly do you mean by the term correspondence? It is actually a written form of something that is an exchange of information between the two parties so that the one party is able to communicate whatever thing, content, idea, suggestions, or anything to other party so that the feelings could not get blocked away. And most often it is being used by our business people at large. And with an advent of new technologies and with the advent of your personal computers and all in the 1970s and in the 1980s, like I've told you in my previous lectures, the emails, text messages, documentations, and social platforms have totally given a different meaning to the aspect of correspondence. The formal element embedded into these written methods, the formal element embedded into these methods of communication makes them appropriate to transmit information between the business or form of business to clients. Now, the formality, or you can say the formal element or subject that is being contained in your emails or your text messages or your documents are going to make it of such a kind that that they are basically for the upliftment of business or as a kind of a firm's activity. Written letters, bills, invoices are still sent physically sometimes, but the companies are migrating their correspondence to digital since it is cheaper and easier to track. So, to be of convenience, we can say that the bills, letters, invoices that has to be sent to your particular your wholesalers, your retailers, and all they or to the consumers. They are all being done by your these correspondence only. The letter from the company goes to the correspondence address of the consumer that this particular amount is to be paid. But now, with an advent of new technology, like I've told you earlier, also the concept of email has become much more cheaper, and the aspect of paperwork has reduced a lot. This is particularly important in conflict resolution procedure of legal disputes. By having a paper trail, any of the parties involved in transaction can review the previous stated information and ensure who misunderstood the situation. So, correspondence actually is going to help you in solving out your problems of misunderstanding. At times, it has always been seen that most of the time that many of us are in a habit that I haven't said these words, and it is quite obvious. We tend to forget the moment we utter the word, we tend to forget for a very longer period of time. So this correspondence, or particularly the letter writing aspect, or you can say not only the letters, but the you can say the telegraphs or the telemails and all, they are going to provide you the basis. See what you have said in those particular circumstances, because the moment you are writing a mail, like I have told you in my previous lecture, that email is going to provide you for a kind of a legitimate example, so that you can so that it can be proven as a kind of a proof for the near future. So the same thing is happening in correspondence. Definition of correspondence. In now there are particular people who are given the definition of correspondence. A poor relation is the most irrelevant thing in nature. Now, Charles Lamb says that if the relation is poor, and that is the most irrelevant thing in nature, a piece of impertinent correspondence, an odious approximation, a haunting concise, a prospectus shadow, lengthening the noontide of our prosperity, he is known by his knock. So, so this particular aspect of this particular person, Charles Lamb, he actually exclamates the aspect that any kind of impertinence behavior from correspondence, or any kind of degree of approximation, say I say that approximately this particular thing as was there in my view, or this is what I mean to say, is going to damage the entire aspect. So for a correspondence, what correspondence is doing is that it is actually creating a kind of a propensity, or prosperity aspect for the development of your business at large. Thomas says, in many the many faces the intimacy, the Victorians could experience it through correspondence, but not through cohabitations. Contemporary men and women can experience it through fornications, but not through friendship. See, basically, the aspect of correspondence was being said by these two people by actually metaphorizing this particular concept, or by actually giving it a kind of a metaphor and a kind of a persona applications and all, wherein it was being said that it is going to actually help the people, the men and the women at large, to experience the aspect of correspondence, because correspondence is going to provide you a kind of a experience by which you will be able to tell that, okay, this is the thing which I actually want to say, and it is not through the friendship, it is only on basis of correspondence. Then Mingdao, those truly linked don't need correspondence. They when they meet again after years, the friend is a true as ever. Excuse me. This particular person, Ten Ming Do, says that there is no need of correspondence, because a true friend is a kind of a person who's going to give you a kind of an element. Todd Goffey, it is a lot. It was lot of correspondence, gummy gigs, because I paid attention to my customers' individual need and action for being. They don't mind, and often even think of my email and text as an automated. I attribute almost all my phenomenon success to the relationship I have with my customers, every bit of which is fluid, to strengthen the automated follow up that comes directly from me. They feel personal, not robotic, and even though the correspondence consumer get it computer generated, the system have grown my bottom line and the lifetime consumer value by doubling the tripling the digit of percentages. So it is actually the German grids give you a aspect of correspondence. The previous definition are going to give you the aspect, may it be from your Charles Lamb, may it be from your Thomas Ross, so may it be from Denming Doe, so, or it may from Todd Godfrey. So, but Jeremy Griggs gave you a kind of a particular aspect wherein he actually explicates the aspect of correspondence. That correspondence is going to provide you a necessary factor to tell your consumer that this is what a product is all about, and you can actually buy it from with this particular place. So what he meant to say is that people will not be able to associate with you unless and until you're going to tell that okay, this is the thing and you're going to buy it. So correspondence is going to provide you the basis for that, and correspondence is doing it very logically to grow on the aspect of correspondence. I hope that you're getting the aspect of correspondence. That correspondence is actually going to, like in my first aspect only, I told that it is a kind of a communication between the two parties, and that thing is being done with your mails, text messages, messaging, and all. And the definitions are also being clear to you all. So now let us quickly move to the aspect of need and importance of correspondence. Now, what exactly do you mean by the need and aspect of correspondence? Helping to maintain proper relationships. Nowadays, business activities are confined to any one area, are not being confined to any one area or locality. The businessmen as well as the consumers are scattered throughout the country. There is a need to maintain a proper relationship among them by using appropriate means of communications. Now, can you imagine of a situation? Say, for example, if you do not tell anything to your particular person, advertisement is also kind of a means of correspondence only. You don't tell anything to the consumer and you make a particular product, launch into the market, and then sit and relax. You cannot do so because in order to have your consumer, you actually have to pitch the product. And for pitching the product, you need advertisement. And for advertisement, you need a message. And for that, you need a correspondence. So basically, the thing vested down or it boils down to correspondence. So correspondence is going to maintain a relationship between your consumers or you on the marketers, or you can say between you as a businessman and the consumer at large. Inexpensive and convenient mode. So through your communication like telephones, telex, fax at business, though there are other modes of communication like telephone, telex, fax, but business information can be provided and obtained economically and conveniently through letters only. See, it is of you can say that it is very important to note that telephone, telex, and fax, or there are n number of things by which you're going to obtain information about any kind of business or any kind of a person at large. But the more aspect, or like I have told you in my lecture of email and all, or in the lecture of your say in the previous lecture of sharing of data and all, that the element of personal touch, the element of personal emotions are not being there in your emails and all. But by writing a correspondence or letter, you can actually give a personal touch to it. Serves as an evidence. We cannot expect a trader to memorize all the facts and figures, though letters he can keep record of all the facts. Thus, letters can serve as an evidence in case of dispute between the two parties. See, if a particular letter of correspondence, like those bills, those cash memos, and all, they're also correspondence only. So, when they are being kept at large, and say, for example, there is a conflict over the issue of, say, a price. Now, the consumer is saying that I haven't bought the particular product at this particular price, and the seller is saying that no, you have bought the same thing. No, what is the restitution of it? They have to be produced a kind of an evidence which is being which is going to serve the aspect of correspondence, that okay, this is the thing which you have paid on this particular time frame, and this is the amount which is being deducted from a particular balance. So actually what is happening is that it is going to provide you a basis for the you can say the evidence for your correspondence and all, for your business and all. Create and maintain goodwill. Sometimes business letters are written to create enhanced goodwill. Businessmen at times send letters to inquire about the complaints, suggestions to the customers. See, often at times it happens that apart from those mails and all, we are into habit of writing a letter. Like I've told you that email doesn't have a personal touch. I've already told you in the previous slide of mine. But the this particular thing, like of your correspondence have a personal touch. You are directly writing a letter when a particular boss of the company or the particular director of the company onto the letterhead of the company writes the name of the consumer, dear Samuelson or dear Stephenson, whatever the name is. So he or she is going to be very much uplifted by the fact, and it is going to create a kind of goodwill that okay, the company's main elements are writing a letter to me, and this will create a kind of a goodwill that okay, this company is good, this company is great, and is working well, and I must continue an aspect or being a consumer of this particular firm or of an organization. Help in expansion of business. Business requires information regarding competing products, prevailing prices, promotions, marketing activities. If the trader has to run from place to place to get information, he will end up doing nothing. It will simply result in loss of time. But through business letters, he can make all the inquiries about the product in the market. He can also receive the orders from the different countries and thus enhance the sales. See what is happening if a particular trader wants to have a business and wants to open a business of any kind of any sort in Lucknow. So how will he able to gather the information? For gathering the information and having the right kind of consumer, he need to run in every part of Lucknow as specific. But the business correspondence or the letter are going to give him a kind of an edge and are going to help him to provide the information to the necessity aspect of his own. Classification of correspondence. When you classify the correspondence onto the following types, there are internal correspondence. Internal correspondence refers to the correspondence between the individual departments, sections, branches of the same organization. Say, for example, John loves to work late. It is his favorite thing. So it is basically a kind of a correspondence which you are being. Say, for example, if you are saying that today you have worked well, the boss of the company writes a letter and produce a kind of a letter onto the letterhead of the company and then send it to Stephenson and say that Stephenson, you're doing pretty well and your work, I'm just fond of your particular work. Thank you. So this particular thing is going to boost up his morale. It is an internal correspondence that is going to boost up the morale of the employee, and as well as the working efficiency will become efficient at large. External correspondence. It refers to the correspondence made with the outside people, that is, the individuals, the customers, suppliers, bankers, financial institutions, money lenders, government departments, educational institutes, charitable trusts, and alike. So basically, it's a kind of a communication. You can say a kind of a letter writing or a kind of a report submission to those who are actually investing into the company, or who are the customers of the company, or who are the part and parcel of operational activities of the company. Say, for example, those money lenders, government departments, educational institutions, charitable trust, and all, they are part and parcel of the organization itself. So, when the correspondence is being made by the organization, between the organization and the people who are working outside it, that is being termed as an external correspondence. So, internal correspondence and external correspondence, then routine correspondence. Routine correspondence referred to the correspondence on routine matters like inquiry, acknowledgement, replies, orders, invitation, and appointment letters. The routine work. See, internal correspondence is a kind of a correspondence that takes place between the people of department. But routine correspondence is the working methodology that is being conducted during the process of your working era. Say, for example, you can say the traditional replies of acknowledgement, the traditional replies of your orders, the traditional replies of your invitations, your appointment letters that who are actually being appointed into the company. These things are already to be communicated by using a correspondence method only. Sales correspondence. It refers to the correspondence relating to the sales They are sales letters, sales reports, invoices, offer discount letters, statement of accounts, confirmation of order, delivery letters, etc. So basically, sales correspondence is going to convey all the methods of sales or all the aspects of sales at large to the consumers, and at the same time to the producers also. So what is going to do, what it actually going to include is that the offers, the discount letters, the statements, and the confirmation letters, the collection letters, the delivery letters, and all. So basically, what is happening is that sales correspondence is going to give you the internal aspects or the working phenomena of the sales of the company. Personalized correspondence, emotional factors responsible for personalized correspondence, the letter relating to requesting, granting, refusing, operating favor, letter containing gratefulness, appreciation, congratulations, commendations, letter of introducing recommendations, and all sympathy letters, censors letters, and all are being personalized correspondence. See, at times it happens. What happens is that a particular person is not in a very good mood, and the boss of the company is seeing this particular thing for a very long period of time. So on a piece of a paper or on a piece of a letterhead of the company, the letter is being typed, and he writes it that I am proud of you and I am proud of your working phenomena, and don't get disheartened. The things are going to work in the near future. Remember that you are best and you will never change. So these kind of emotional things are going to create a kind of a positive impact into the mind of the people. And with this intention, if the boss actually tries to communicate with the person, the kind of a relationship bond will be developed. Circulars regarding the notices, regarding the address change, telephone numbers are all being communicated by using of your correspondence only. Now, particularly to talk about that there are certain kinds of components of your particular letter or correspondence. Now, the particular components of correspondence are the heading. The heading contains the writer's address, the date of the letter, the writer's name is not included in the date, uh, and only the date is needed, and the heading of the letterhead is stationary. I will repeat this point one more time. The heading contains writer's address. That means that who is actually going to communicate the process with you. The writer's address, the date of the letter. The date of the letter is being mentioned towards the left or the right or the right hand side, depending upon the choice of format which is being adopted. The writer's name is not there, is not included, and only a date is needed in heading of the letterhead stationery. See, basically, the date on which the letter is being dispatched and the date on which the letter is being written. These two things are already being these two things are always being there onto the correspondence. The heading aspect of the correspondence is going to include only these two things. Beside this, only the writer's address and nothing more than that. Inside address. Inside address shows the name and the address of the recipient. The information helps to prevent confusion. Also, if the recipient has moved, the inside address helps to determine what to do with the letter. In the inside address, you will include the appropriate title and the respect of the recipient, the copy name, when you have the name, individual number, address appropriately, Mr., Mrs., Doctor, and so on. If you are not sure what is the correct for an individual, try to find out the individual sign letters and then consult the form of address of section in a dictionary, in a directory. So basically, what is happening in the inside letter, the address of the particular recipient is being mentioned. And this is being mentioned in just a manner to say that if the letter is not being received by the particular person, he or she uh, may be receiving this particular letter onto the particular address that is being mentioned on the inside letters. And it is also going to include those salutation marks of Mr., Mrs., or Miss, or Mr., or doctors, and so on. So, if you're not able to confirm that what type of salutations to be given, you can just refer to the individual signature on any of the document that has been made in the past, and then try to figure out in dictionary that okay, this is the name and what affects its particular name. The salutations. The salutations are directly address the recipient of letter in followed by colon, except when friendly, familiar, sociable tone is intended, the case of comma is used. See, when the friendly tone is being adopted, the colon and the comma will be used. Otherwise, it will not. Notice that in simplified letter format, the salutation line is eliminated. Although, if you do not know whether the recipient is a man or a woman, the traditional practice to write is dear sir or dear sirs, and but that is the sexist part of it. To avoid the problem salutation, dear sir or madam, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, dear people, have been tried without being much acceptance. Deleting the salutation line altogether and inserting to whomsoever it is concerned is taken into place as a good solution to either it is impersonal or personal. The best solution to make a quick anonymous phone call to an organization and ask the name or address the salutation to the department name, committee name, or in position name, dear personal department, dear recruitment committee, dear chairperson, dear director financial aid, for example. So, like I have told you that in heading you are going to have the name of the person, and in the inside address you're going to have the name of the recipient and the address of the recipient, so that you will be so that if the person, if the letter is not being delivered to the exact person in person, in personal form, so it can be delivered to the person on the address. But now the aspect of salutation is going to come. Salutation is going to include another very interesting element, and that is that whenever you are not aware that whether this particular person is sir or ma'am, you are going to write dear sirs or dear ma'am, or dear ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, dear people. Can be as it's been tried a lot, and many of them, when they have tried these dear sirs, which was being too sexy to use it, because the concept was that the dear sir or dear sirs is going to involve both of the element. It could be a male, it could be a female. But now, with the advent of new terminologies and new words and new existence, another came into existence, and that was to whomsoever it is concerned. Now that has also been replaced. Many of them have not been using it for a very quiet period of time, though it is being used much commonly in use. But now the aspect has changed, and now you can actually uh, make the correspondence in the name of the organization itself, or ask the name in general. Say, for example, dear personal department or dear recruitment committee. Dear recruitment committee is going to address to the sirs also, to the ma'ams also. Dear chairperson, maybe addressing the chair, the she part and the he part, and dear financial aid is going to replicate the aspect of ma'am and sir both. Then the subject line or reference line, as shown in order of letter, the subject line replaces the salutation, as shown in the order letter. The subject line replaces the salutation or include with it. The subject line announces the main business of the letter. So, subject line or reference line is to be used at large. And if subject line or reference line, as shown in an order letter, uh, the subject line is being replaced by the salutations and all. See what is happening, that if the letter is of order form, it replaces by the subject line is being replaced by the salutations. And when it is of general concern to the business, it is being reflected by the help of your you can say the subject line. And what is the subject line? Subject line is going to tell you that what is the main intention or the purpose of the letter. So to begin with the aspect, it includes the component of heading, the inside letter, the salutation, and the subject line. Now comes the body of the letter. The actual message or course is contained in the body letter with paragraphs. Strategizing for writing a body of the letter are discussed in the section of business correspondence style. Basically, and the business correspondence style is already been told to you many a times that the best way to write a particular letter is to divide the particular letter into the lines of eight and then form a paragraph. It is generally being assumed by many of the correspondence style that the best method to write a letter is to write a letter if the content is not too long and you are not addressing to a particular horizon people. Say for example, if you're addressing to a particular dean or to a particular university vice chancellor, so for that the body has to be exactly 8 lines. In 8 lines you just have to wind the entire body, and you cannot say that okay, I did this, I did that, I did now I'm doing this, now I'm doing that. So this is a kind of a informal way to communicate. For that particular person who doesn't have any lot of time, only the subject line is going to matter, and only the main content of your particular body of the letter is going to matter. Then the complementary clause. See, most of the time it is being done that cordially, sincerely yours, respectfully yours, or with a comma and all, sincerely yours, or then you're going to use your notice that the first letter is being capitalized only, always followed by a comma. So the aspect of complementary closure is that in our day-to-day language or in our day-to-day work methodology, I have been training people in correspondence for the last 2 to 3 years more often. So I have found out that people are in a habit of writing one thing too often. Yours faithfully, yours obediently, or thanking you in anticipation and then writing yours sincerely or yours faithfully. See, students, faithfully or yours obediently is being used when you were in your school life, when you are in your college life, or whenever you are in your corporates. You will use the word your sincerely and faithful, and the term or the faithful aspect. You cannot use that faithful because faithful is too traditional, or you can say it is too an outwarding type of thing. Not an outwarding type of thing, because the thing is that most of the us are in a habit of using faithfully and the word faithful a lot. But in letter writing or in correspondence writing, and that to a personal corporate type of letter, you will not use the word that faithfully and too often, because or you just avoid that particular thing. What you're going to write is that the first letter in capital, yours sincerely. Okay, one thing more, students, always remember the spelling of sincerely. It's Sincerely. It's not Scincerely, because most of the time we are in a habit of making mistakes with the word sincerely. So you have to be very acute about this thing. Signature block. Usually you type your name 4 lines below the complementary closure, sign on your name in between. If you are woman and want to make your marital status clear, use Miss, Mrs, or in the parenthesis before the typed version of your name. Whenever possible, include your title on your name position. Hold just below your name, for example, technical writing student, Somofroy data processing major, or torrent country community college student, and as a perfectly acceptable and all. So the complementary clause is something which is of much more importance. Yours sincerely, as told by you, told by me to you people. You have to write this particular yours sincerely most of the times, or adopt this method of writing yours sincerely at large. See, but in signature block, what are you going to write the thing? Most of the time, it is being seen that we are in a habit. of actually making the thing very very clear that the aspect of our marital status. And it is a very good thing also in the country India. It is being most commonly being used, and not only in country India but many parts of the world also, to write your title. That means that if you are Miss, if you are Mrs., if you are Doctor, if you are Mister, you have to write that particular thing at large. And just below that particular point, when you write, then when you sign, and then you write below that Mr. So and so, then do mention your say you can mention your designation, like associate professors or professors, and something like that. So that is going to make a kind of a complimentary, or a kind of a thing, a signature block, which is of much more importance. Like this is there, sincerely, Sony, then enclosure of this, and then application form of it. So this is the kind of a thing when you are going to sign a block of it. Ending notions just below the signature block are often several abbreviations or phases that have an important functions. This figure 1.1 is going to show the things to you. Enclosures to make the recipient know that the items are being enclosed along with it. For example, enclosure 1, enclosure 2. If you send a resume with along with the application, you just have to mention enclosure resume. If it is being enclosed 1, then ENC 1 or ENC2 along with this. Say for example, you are writing sincerely Suzy Sony, then enclosure 1 is going to include curriculum vitae, application form, and letter of reference. So this thing have to be clearly mentioned, that what you are affixing along with the correspondence. If you are not going to mention, then no one is going to actually look for those kind of things. So or they will think that why along this with this particular letter, with this particular piece of letter, you are affixing your things. So for that, you have to mention those enclosure aspects. Copies. If you send copies of letter to others, indicate this fact among the end notion. If, for example, you were upset by the local merchant handling your repair problems and were sending the copy letter to the Better Business Bureau to write this particular CC Better Business Bureau. If you plan to send a copy to a lawyer, then write CC Mr. Raymond Mason attorney. So you have to mention the things to whom you have sent the copies at large, and this is going to create a kind of a impact onto the person who is actually reading the notions or reading the correspondence. Following pages, if you are if your letter is longer than one page, the heading at the top of the subsequent page can be handled in one of the following ways. If you use letterhead stationery, remember not to use it subsequent pages. However, you must use a blank paper of same quality, same width, and same length by affixing it on the letter stationery. See, students, the concept is that the following pages. At times, it happens that most of us are in a habit of writing the things very clearly, and when things are to be written very clearly as a kind of a, you can say, a complaint or a report or something like that. So the following pages are need to be affixed. Now, remember, you cannot use the company's letterhead as a following pages. You have to use a blank paper. The first page of your letter will be the company's letterhead, and the next subsequent pages will be the those A4 sheet paper, which is equal the size of the letterhead paper. Now, uh, this was all something about the component aspect of it. Now, just we read about the heading, we read about the inside address, salutations, subject of reference line, body letters, complementary closures, signature block, and notion, initials, enclosures, copies, and following pages. Now let us have that aspect of as to how can we plan a correspondence. There is no single best way of writing a process. In fact, the good writer develop their own process and their own suit for tackling the problems. But one of the best one way or the other in lieu of this person before stating the process, writing the letter of correspondence, he needs to go through the following three steps. Now remember students, planning, then your drafting, then your coherence are basically the three basic steps to make up your letter look relevant. Because the thing is that you cannot say that I am going to write a three-page letter to my university professors. For that, you have to be very specific. Let us have a look at to what these things are. The very first point is planning, determining the exact purpose of the message and what its intention is to the reader, or what information we need to give to our reader and how to achieve the basic purpose, and also in what order the information should be presented. Or in order to have a clear idea of the exact planning, let us answer the questions below. Firstly, what is the main purpose of your letter? Or what do you want to do with your letter too? Example, to sell your company to the newest product, encourage the volunteer. Product A is being request to not to reject the product and request for a deadline extension and something like that. See, basically, now the very first aspect, students, is planning. When you are planning something, plan it accordingly in such a manner that the intention of writing a letter, like I have told you that subject line is a very much important need. Or if you say that why, what is the need of subject line, the basic importance of the subject line is to just tell that this is the intention or this is the purpose of why I'm writing this letter. So planning is to be done as to decide upon that what you exactly want, and for that you have to answer following questions. What is the main purpose of the letter? That means what do you want to do with the letter and all. What is the core message that you want to convey to the reader? Say for example, I want that say if you want to, if you want a refund from the company, you just have to clearly mention that the core essence of the message, I only want the refund of my product A. Or you can, I don't want any kind of those complimentary gifts and all, I only want the refund money back. So you are very much pretty clear about your views. Then the third is, what are the reason of the main message? See, the main purpose of writing the letter has to be decided that I am writing this letter because I am totally being unsatisfied with the views. Secondly, the main intention of my writing is that I want a refund. And the third, that why I am writing, why I am asking, or why I am seeking for a refund and all. So basically, these three things are to be taken into consideration for planning the aspect of your correspondence. Then adding to it furthermore, what is the nature of the letter based? What is the nature of the letter based in your message? Example, it is persuasive, informative, descriptive. How familiar your reader is with the subject? What are the specific pieces of information? Which part of the letter reader is likely to accept? What is the reader's characteristics? What is your social profession and the relationship? What is your social profession and relationship to your readers? And that means that how can you influence her to your response, and how many have you have influenced till the further long. These things are going to help you in planning your correspondence at large. So planning is going to involve only that aspect as to how you are going to make the people work upon your correspondence. This next is drafting, the process of actually analyzing the being, that who the exact potential person is to whom you want to communicate. We often expect too much from the first draft, but we have to keep very important thing in our mind, that it is a proven fact that almost every people in corporate before spend 35 minutes, 10 minutes, 35 minutes for thinking and 10 minutes for actually writing. So therefore total of 45 minutes is being drafted. So drafting something is going to involve a particular kind of thing. What is drafting? If you just have if you just have to look at the aspect of drafting at large, drafting is something in which you are actually making the letter look alike, that how it will look for the particular reader and how are the readers going to react towards it. See, planning is going to involve those elements of what the letter is, or what is the intention, or what is the purpose of writing, and then how are you going to interpret the things and all. So, drafting is actually the method or the phenomena, the how the particular thing will look alike. Then the next aspect is of that of drafting letters. There are three important things which you have to keep in mind. That is the appropriate use of language. That is the three C's: coherent, clear, and concise. There are the three C's. Coherence: establish a good reader-writer relationship. Now, the aspect of coherence, the early set of notes. So basically, what was planning? Planning was actually deciding upon the aspect of a correspondence. Drafting is actually the way the particular correspondence will look like. And now the third element is of coherence. The earlier set of notes should have been you have given you a clear idea of role of organization of business letter writing. Specifically, the earlier note should have provided you with an overview of many possible ways as to how the letter is according to your needs target reader. However, while you are uh, while you know well, you now may have a clear idea as to how to deliver the main message. The drafting stage requires your work of the organization. That is, you must put all the language together in order to make the words coherent. Coherence means that how the particular word will sound to the particular individual. At times, it happens that you think that okay, this is a very good thing, this is a very good piece of letter, but how it is going to presume to that particular person, that you have to actually look for. 10 tips to be for a constructive correspondence. You have to work upon your outline. Like I have already told you that you have to work upon your outline at large. Subject matter need to be of much more great use. Greetings. Uh, Greetings is of utmost importance. Dear sir, dear ma'am, or to whomsoever it is concerned, are all going to be a part of greetings and all. Intimacy and impartiality. Remember, if you are initiating the contract with the recipient and refer to him or her, for example, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Jones, if the person's gender is unclear from his or her name, address like Pat Thompson followed by a colon. C. It is if you are replying, maintain a formal tone. If the recipient signed his her, or her own correspondence with the full name, he or she signed off like Pat, comma, for example, feel free to use the first name alone and then the salutations. See, basically, intimacy and impartiality is going to involve that how intimate are you to the particular person. When you write a particular word like yours faithfully, I'm just using a particular word which you use too often, use too often a lot. That is yours friendly, yours truly, yours lovingly, and all. You use these kind of intimate words to those who are actually incompetent to you. But if you are not too much aware about that particular person, or you're not aware about the his or her gender, then you have to write that particular thing like Pat Johnson and then put an exclamation mark. And you have to be very peculiar about that. You are not going to write anything that is going to cross the beliefs or the ideologies of person. Leading off, that means if you are requesting for a service clarification, you should be outset and all. For the grievances, you have to describe it in in the beginning itself. Tone. Always remember, students, that the tone should be polite and should be crisp. If you are writing a very warning, if you're writing a strong letter also, write a letter using the strong words. Don't use the slang languages and all. Perspectives. Perspectives means a letter, email, message, complaints, or a complaint. Your store is lousy service may prompt same result as I wish to complain about the poor service I received. Perspective of writing means that use smaller sentences. Don't use too big sentences to communicate a particular thing. Like most often, at times it happens that many of the teachers are in a habit of explaining the thing too a large. But if you explain a thing in lesser words, it will have a more impact rather than having those things. Language should be a good aspect. Form and length should be in accordance to the time and convenience of your letters. Conclusions. Conclusions should be of please provide the requested information. So when if you are asking for a particular thing, use the word like please and all. Or if you are using that I may satisfy a request, it means that it is a kind of a notion that okay, I am at your service. So conclusion should be such that is going to create an impactful image of yours into the mind of the reader. So let's make a quick recap about what we have done. We have done that what was correspondence. We have done the definition of correspondence, the need and importance of correspondence, a classification of it, components, formats. Then we have done the planning of correspondence, tips, and construction of the particular correspondence. We have done the 10 tips. So with this, I come to the end of my presentation. I hope you like it, and I hope that you are now being aware of the aspect of writing a letter or writing a correspondence at large. Because the aspect is that, students, that the moment you write a letter or start writing a letter, you get carried away by the languages and all. Remember, writing a letter or writing a correspondence, and that to a professional one, is an art and a science. An art because it involves the beautification of words and how well are you going to use those words, and science because it has some own principles of its own. So you have to remember everything from that angle. To the best of my ability, I have tried to work upon all the things, but still, if there are any doubts or anything, you can just write to me by using your WhatsApp and all. You can just mail me the contents or mail me the question and all. You can come to my cubicle and ask me the questions and clear your doubts. Until my next lecture, thank you.